Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Welcome, students, teachers, judges, and my fellow teacher, Mr. Dawson. As I rewrote my speech yesterday, I came to realize immigration and patriotism is a very difficult topic to talk about, as it is also controversial. It's a very hard topic. It really is, because it's sensitive and it's very emotional. It can evoke many emotions, both negative and positive. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, must understand that the words from France and our founding fathers are not to be taken lightly. Although they are beautiful words, they have no meaning unless we act upon them. They are meaningless. These are verbs, meaning they need to be put into action. We can use these words to show immigrants that our arms are wide open for them. We, the people, are the product of immigrants. And many today seek new opportunities. Let's shine our light into the pathway of a new life for all. People often acknowledge cultures only when it's convenient. Instead, we should celebrate diversity. If we could only recognize that our differences are the source of power for our country. This land was meant to provide. It was meant to be here for safety, for peace, and freedom above all. United we stand, divided we fall. It was meant to accept and invite all. As Morris carefully crafted the preamble for the Constitution, it was said as a key to assure all that it was a promise for all masses, for all life, to create a perfect union for all of us. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched reviews of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Let's shine our light onto the pathway of a new life for all. Thank you very much.
Bravery. It is one of the most predominant things that built this country. My name is Emily Mengel, and I would like to welcome judges, guests, and fellow contestants. I believe that we must all remember that without our brave armed forces, our nation would not be what it is today. Elmer Davis put it best: this nation will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave. Davis was a well-known reporter and writer. In 1910, at the age of 20, Davis graduated from Franklin College with a bachelor's degree in the arts. He was then a writer in multiple newspapers until 1942, when he was named director of the U.S. Office of War Information, OWI, during World War II. He kept the public informed about the war, and while it was a challenge, he eventually set the OWI into more effective services. Davis loved his country, and he wanted to serve his country, to make a difference. He wanted to remind people with his quote that freedom, although it is something that all humans long for, comes with a price. That price can come in many shapes and sizes, but it must always be executed with courage, motivation, and devotion. Ask yourself, without our military, what would we be? would we be the strong nation we are today, or would America simply be a heap of land, still under the control of Europe? All the men and women that fought for us throughout history gave it everything they had and were willing to sacrifice themselves for us. Their families watched them go away to war, not knowing if they would return, but knowing that they were doing noble work. Some Americans today may think that freedom is just a given and forget about all the people that fought tirelessly for our freedom. Davis's quote can remind new generations of all the people that went out into the battlefield to keep this nation free and prosperous. In fact, 13% of the American population fought in the American Revolution, and 11% of the population fought in World War II. This information just goes to show how many truly courageous people went out there for us. If I had to describe our military in one word, well, I couldn't. Amazing or wonderful, just don't do it. They're courageous, tough, motivated, and so much more. If I could emphasize any greater what our military has done for us, I would. On a personal level, I have an idea of what it might have been like to experience a war. My great-great-grandfather fought as a colonel in World War II and also fought in the Korean War and the Vietnamese War. He may have experienced things that no man would want to experience, such as seeing bombs go off or losing his friends. This makes me appreciate all the things that soldiers have done and seen in the past. All veterans deserve to know how much we appreciate them. Even kids can show vets their appreciation. You may be thinking, how can kids show vets their appreciation? Well, I can tell you. You can send letters to local veteran homes, volunteer at hospitals, you can even pack food boxes. If you have anyone in your family who fought or is fighting in the military, be sure to show them how much you appreciate them, because if it weren't for them and all the soldiers before them, America would not be what it is today. Just as Elmer Davis once said, "This nation will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave." Thank you.
Welcome judges, audience, and fellow contestants. First, can I ask you to please think to yourself, what do you think is one of the biggest problems in America today? Hi, my name is Megan BENDIX, and today I will be talking about what I think is one of the biggest problems in America. That is drunk driving. Drunk driving is a gamble you just can't win. There are many consequences to it, and it destroys many lives in its path. First, I will be discussing why any alcohol in your system while driving is bad. Next, I will explain the consequences of drunk driving. And lastly, I will explain what we as American citizens can do to help stop this deadly issue. Now, many people think, oh, I can have one beer and drink and drive because that won't make me drunk. Although that theory is wrong. The alcohol limit for driving is 0.5 ounces, while just only one beer contains 1.5 ounces of alcohol. So if you were to get pulled over for anything like speeding, running red light, or not signaling, etc., and the officer tests you for alcohol, or can even smell your breath, you would still get the charges for DUI. Then what? Drinking and driving is an enormous mistake that nobody can fix. The consequences to drunk driving are so awful, I can't even think of why anyone would do it. Drunk driving is a felony, and felonies are no joke. Someone that I deeply care about was charged with DUI on October 30th, 2013, and did not get released from prison until July 31st, 2016. 3.5 years, all because of one mistake. She lost her job, home, car, and children. She's had to pay many fines and just found out 3 weeks ago she has another $5,000 fine to pay. And that's not mentioning the fact that she just barely got her license back like a week ago. So imagine balancing out, trying to build your life back together again, all because of one night. She is a very strong person, but still goes through problems every day. Every day she fights not to take that sip of alcohol. We as American citizens need to stop this madness. According to CDC.gov, every day an average of 21 people per day are killed in motor vehicle crashes that involve an alcohol-impaired driver. That is one death every 51 minutes. So yearly, 10,000 people dead, thanks to drunk driving. Although nowadays we have Uber and Lyft, and you could take taxis too. Now many people think or say, taxis are too expensive, I don't want to pay that much, I'll just drive home. But let me ask you this, would you rather spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in fines and get DUI charges and go to prison, or spend $10 on a ride home using Uber or Lyft? Your choice. I know I would rather spend $10. Also, if your friend is drinking and wants to drive somewhere, don't be afraid to take their keys. They may be mad at you at the time, but they'll appreciate it later on. It's better you taking their keys than them taking the life of someone else or themselves. So, in conclusion, if you want to have fun with your friends and drink, just please make the responsible decision to just take an Uber. Trust me, I lost someone that I loved for 3.5 years, and it was the hardest thing that I ever had to do. So you must remember, you booze, you cruise, you lose. Thank you.
We must dare to be great, and we must realize that greatness is the fruit of toil and sacrifice and high courage. This quote was once said by our 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt. Now, what does this quote mean? What was the message President Roosevelt was trying to give us Americans? Good afternoon, judges, family, friends, and fellow contestants. I'm Kennedy Jennings. Many times throughout our history, Americans have worked hard, sacrificed, and shown high courage for the benefit of our country. This quote means that we must challenge ourselves and shows why our first responders, military members, and political leaders have been so successful. Every day, first responders risk and sometimes lose their lives for all of us. On September 11th, 2001, many first responders died. 2 hijacked airplanes crashed into the World Trade Center. All people aboard the planes and thousands from the buildings died. People started running out of the burning, collapsing buildings, while America's brave first responders were running into the buildings to save lives. A total of 412 first responders died from this one attack. First responders are always sacrificing to keep our country safe and make it better. World War II is another great example of high courage and sacrifice. America could have surrendered or never been active in the war, but they didn't. America fought in battles throughout the world, and many American soldiers and citizens lost their lives. They dared themselves to keep pushing through it no matter how hard it got. America had been attacked by the Japanese on December 7th, 1941 at Pearl Harbor. Even though this battle only lasted about 90 minutes and did a lot of damage to the US, this was just the beginning for America. The United States had fought alongside with Great Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and China on their side. Allied powers won the war, but about 418,500 Americans lost their lives. America's toil, sacrifice, and high courage helped them win the war. Patrick Tillman, a starting safety for the Arizona Cardinals, was a very good football player. In 2002, he had many offers from teams and $3.6 million offer from the Arizona Cardinals to continue his NFL career. But Tillman felt he must serve his country after the 9/11 attacks. He enlisted in the United States Army. Tillman served in Iraq before losing his life while serving in Afghanistan. Patrick Tillman had the high courage to give up the lucrative NFL life he had to sacrifice his own. Patrick Tillman is a great example of someone who has shown great courage and sacrifice to make our country better. Political leaders throughout our history have sacrificed, shown high courage to make our country better. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Senator Bobby Kennedy, and President Abraham Lincoln all toiled, sacrificed, and exhibited high courage to make our country better. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was an American minister. who was a major leader during the civil rights movements in the 1950s and 60s. He had the courage to stand up for serious issues, justice, poverty, and racial equality. His leadership and drive changed our country forever. He was shot and killed because of his beliefs on April 4th, 1968. Dr. King sacrificed his life for what he believed was right. Senator Bobby Kennedy was involved in politics and practiced law. He held positions of a U.S. Attorney General, a United States Senator from New York. He worked for civil rights with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Bobby Kennedy worked hard to fight for unrepresented groups, the disadvantaged, and the poor. He was working to try and end the war in Vietnam. He was in the process of running for president when he was shot and killed June 8, 1968, after winning the California Democratic primary. Bobby Kennedy sacrificed his life to make our country better. President Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, abolished slavery. Lincoln led the Union into the Civil War. Lincoln held the country together at probably the most trying time in U.S. history. He was then shot a week after the war because of his beliefs. President Lincoln toiled, showed high courage, and sacrificed his life to make our country better. These are all great examples of political leaders that gave their lives to make America better. Americans throughout our history have challenged themselves to be great. By working hard, sacrificing, and displaying high courage, Americans have made the United States the strongest, most successful country in the world. Our first responders, military members, and political leaders have toiled, shown high courage, and sacrificed every day so that America can reach its greatest potential. Thank you for your time.
To me, patriotism is contribution to one's country and to make their country fair and free for all. Most people feel as though the president or the government are the most patriotic, but I feel that Martin Luther King Jr. was just as patriotic as any of them. Welcome judges, audience members, and fellow contestants. King was an American civil rights activist. He was the leader of the civil rights movement, a movement in which they were trying to get constitutional and legal rights for the people of color and end racism. His famous "I Have a Dream" speech was spoken during March on Washington, where more than 250,000 people joined together with King to speak up for equal rights. This speech brought more attention to the civil rights movement and inspired many people as he shared his dream of uniting all Americans through tolerance and acceptance. If all these patriotic achievements he has made, including the two examples I just gave, weren't a part of history, I would not be allowed to be here speaking to all of you today. King faced many hardships in his journey to equal rights. Some include up to 7 attacks on him and his property. One of those attacks was being successful, resulting in King getting stabbed. Also, he got threatening phone calls and even had his house bombed and set on fire. People may think that being stabbed would have killed him, but King narrowly avoided death a decade before actually being assassinated by James Earl Ray, which was considered by many to be just a conspiracy. So, our beloved speaker and patriot went through a lot for us people of color to be able to embrace ourselves today and stand proud as Americans. Now, you can't expect someone to do something so life-changing and not be afraid. King, sadly, was afraid of not being good enough. He was afraid that because of his skin color, nobody would listen to him. He wouldn't be heard. But he faced his fears and he won the fight by standing up for his beliefs as an American citizen. That's a huge patriotic feat that should never go unmentioned. Now me, Dominic Cataldo, only being 13 years of age, was not alive to experience King's journey firsthand. But there are still racist people out there, and I will carry on King's legacy and end racism. I will be a patriot. Once again, I'm Dominic Cataldo, proud African American with freedom because of what the patriot we call Martin Luther King has done for us.
Hello parents, judges, staff members, and fellow speakers. My name is Jackson Farley, and this is How Immigration Benefits America. Imagine being born in a land of instability and chaos and being told your entire upbringing that America is the land of peace and prosperity, and you are determined to pursue a better future for both you and potentially your family. But upon arriving, you are either sent back to the chaos or accepted into a land of discrimination where you may be unable to get a job and may even have to wonder if you will be able to sleep in shelter next week. These are the struggles many immigrants face, and it should not be this way since they are only helping us. To any immigrant deciding whether or not to come to the United States right now, we need you. Immigration benefits America because it gives people new opportunities, keeps many jobs alive, and creates diversity. First off, immigration takes people from any background and lets them have any future they want in any country they choose. Now, why would you want to leave your home country, you may ask? Well, the reasons for most immigrants moving are a more stable economy, more natural resources, new freedoms and liberties, and most of all, better paying work. Visas often cost more than $1,000, and you must wait 5 to 10 years to get them. Now, $1,000 may not seem like a whole lot to us privileged Americans, but once converted from US dollars to other world currencies, $1,000 can be gigantic. So when people are willing to put in that kind of money, they must be extremely hopeful for what the future may hold. And when somebody is that devoted to a task, it is highly unlikely that they could let us down. We are able to live the lives we are living because our ancestors immigrated here from overseas seeking financial success. So that's not to say generations down the line, the descendants of modern immigrants could be living outstanding lives. These people contribute so much to the American economy because a lot of immigrants end up starting businesses to chase what we know to be the American dream. Next, modern movements of immigration are single-handedly keeping many jobs alive. 72 million jobs have been lost to forms of automation such as robots and machines. So if an immigrant lands a job that is susceptible to being taken over by forms of automation, it keeps that job in the hands of humans, which means a new human, natural or foreign American, can jump in that role after them and have that job, which also implies future workers like these fellow speakers and I will have more opportunities when we are older. So many more jobs are lost to automation rather than immigration. So if we focused on slowing down automation rather than immigration, we would be keeping many more jobs alive for any kind of American to work in. And with more people getting hired, diversity starts to appear in the workplace. Finally, immigration contributes to something called diversity, which is quite an amazing thing when you think about it. A group of people from all around the world and from many different backgrounds coming together to support a common cause, which in this case is the well-being of the United States of America. Together, every immigrant faced different struggles before coming to the U.S. because every immigrant has a different story. After all, they're individuals. So by getting more immigrants in this great nation of ours, we could grow to understand many struggles and become better human beings through the experience. We function as the melting pot of the world because we are a nation of immigrants, which also makes us a nation of diversity. Immigration is great for America. And if you're wondering whether to make the move or not, pack your bags because all signs say you should. It gives people new opportunities, cuts down on automation, and creates diversity. Together, we keep each other sheltered and able to buy food. We are in dire need of a change in this country, and immigration can be that change. The more immigrants there are, the less scary it becomes to immigrate. What do you have to be afraid of? After all, as it states on the Statue of Liberty itself, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Thank you, and God bless America.
Monarch butterflies, big, orange, and black wings, delicate, and each one as unique as the other. Every year, these gracious creatures make their way to another home to re-begin the cycle. Hello, my name is Gigi Ballestero, currently attending the 8th grade of Peoria Elementary, and I'd like to thank you for welcoming me here today. When asked what I would say to those seeking refuge by the process of illegal immigration, I have many thoughts. Some pleasant, others not so much. Now, I will admit, I do not believe they should immigrate here. However, after taking into consideration their circumstances, my thoughts upon the topic begin to differ greatly. Similar to the monarch butterflies who come from the country of Mexico and migrate to the Americas, we get a majority of our human immigrants from Mexico. They are both only seeking a home, a place to start their family, and to do so in peace. Every year, millions and millions of monarch butterflies migrate from America to Canada to Mexico, all in a continuous cycle. All while 11.3 million monarch butterflies migrate. All while 11.3 million Mexicans immigrate to the US. Like one another, they cannot help what they are doing. They are in a desperate search for a home, a place to start their family. So who can blame them? To all those Mexican immigrants out there searching, I'd like to tell you to keep on going. What you're doing is worth fighting for. I consider you brave and strong and courageous. I remember when I was younger, I believed the solution to the problem was much more simple than it really is. But nothing is as it seems. These people are trapped and tangled in a sticky web of poverty. In order to obtain your green card, it takes two things that not all of us are lucky enough to have: money and time. In Mexico, the currency is less than it is here in the US, meaning they're working for longer hours with smaller wages. Mind you, they're not only working to provide themselves a green card, but also their family, the people they love and care about. This process is extremely long and just as tedious. So I don't blame you. I don't blame you for wanting to provide everyone you love a fair and equal opportunity. I consider you brave, strong, and courageous for doing what others run from and would rather listen about on TV from the comfort of their homes. Every day we see all the tragedies you face. You know all the risks you will face down the road, yet you keep on going, striving for greatness. On channels 10, 12, 15, and even channel 5, we see all the tragedies you face. You are an inspiration for both my countries and others alike going through these powerful and life-altering events. So again, I will repeat myself. I do not blame you when this is your only way to turn to. I understand that this is your last hope and last chance. The same way we see these tragedies, you feel them. The same way we watch innocent children dying for simply trying to get what we as Americans take for granted, you lived through it. And the same way the African Americans fought for their freedom for 244 years with astounding results, so will you. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because there were soldiers upon soldiers, slaves upon slaves, dying for something as simple yet stunning as their right to freedom. I can assure you that it is not only I, a 14-year-old girl who wishes from the bottom of my heart to see to it that you succeed. I'm not saying that we are as innocent nor graceful as these butterflies, but like one another, we cannot help what is in our nature that compels us with the will so strong to acquire a free and equal life, even if that means immigrating and facing the risks.
Hello, judges, parents, and fellow contestants. Allow me to ask you a question. What moment best defines America for you? Now, really listen to that question. What moment best defines America for you? I've heard one's history helps shape one's future. There have been many historic times and events that have helped shape the future. To me, there's one standout event in particular that I believe was a pivotal moment in paving the way for America's bright future. On July 20th, 1969, America did itself proud. Amidst the civil discord, racial inequality, and the Vietnam War, Americans stepped away from fear and tension to watch as our great nation literally left its footprint on a world of new possibilities. America stepped onto the moon. It wasn't until this very moment that the disagreements and division were overpowered by the sheer optimism and pride Americans could revel in together. And most Americans recognized that the prize at the end of the race was well worth fighting for. See, the fight began in 1961 when President John F. Kennedy announced that he wanted American astronauts to land on the moon. This took 8 years and saw many failed attempts, but the bravery and relentless efforts of the men and women of NASA, despite the failures, helped fuel the Apollo 11 mission's fateful triumph as the first successful manned mission to the moon. Now, some of you may still be wondering, How has this helped shape America's future? How has this event led to the betterment of our great 50 states? Let me explain. The moon landing lent a sense of patriotism, and it gave every American a common ground that focused on prosperity, ingenuity, and a hope for a brighter future. After all, the common ground was the surface of the moon. These were literally heights that we as species, let alone Americans, had ever reached before. Now, some may disagree and say that the attacks of 9/11 were the most impactful in U.S. history, helping strengthen and bond our great nation as a result of the first foreign attack on contiguous U.S. soil since the Revolutionary War. Speaking of the Revolutionary War, many might argue and say that our nation's fight for independence was the most important event in U.S. history. We banded together as a small nation to gain our freedom from a mighty empire. But I counter. Neither of those events were born from peaceful intentions, nor is there such a feeling of pride and joy to be a part of something bigger than humanity's presence on Earth. Of course, we as a nation must recognize the wars, the losses, and the acts of inhumanity committed throughout history. But hopefully, this is only in order to prevent such atrocities from ever reoccurring. But I prefer to focus on the positive events that have brought forth joy in the hearts of many Americans, just as the Apollo 11 mission did. Some may choose to take away from America's achievement of landing on the moon, citing the debate America's only intention was to finish first in the race to the moon. I argue that NASA's core goals are simply to discover and explore space, and with many critics exclaiming that landing on the moon was impossible, NASA defied those critics by landing on the moon that fateful summer day in 1969. On this day, Americans bled red, white, and blue, just as I am now and just recalling this moment. I could continue to spout off facts about the Apollo 11 and the moon landing, but I'll leave that to you and Google for later. So I leave you with this. I love America. And to me, America is a free country composed of diverse and amazingly talented people who can achieve feats never thought possible. And so, my fellow citizens, while I feel that landing on the moon was an enormously important moment in defining America, enough about me. What moment best defines America for you? Thank you.
Good afternoon, audience, judges, and fellow contestants. My name is Madeline Griefer. A wise man once stated, "There is nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed by what is right with America." Our 42nd President Bill Clinton once spoke these patriotic words, but what did he mean? Some may choose to interpret this quote by thinking President Clinton was calling America a problematic country or something that needs to be fixed. Well, personally, I choose to believe President Clinton was simply acknowledging the fact that we're not perfect. We have problems just as anyone else would. However, through the motivation of our citizens, the rights we cherish, and our opportunistic land, there is nothing that we can't do. To begin, every American citizen has something special inside them. That thing is motivation. We're all constantly motivated to do better, to play an active role in our community. We're encouraged to pursue an education, vote for the government, and even run for office. However, it wasn't always that easy. Let's take it back to the 1800s. Our education system was not what it is today. The problem with the schooling system was that there were not enough teachers to go around. At the time, there were not enough educators to go around America's burgeoning school system, so the few teachers outsourced many of their duties upon the students themselves. This shows that even centuries ago, citizens of America were able to rise up to take on a challenge within their community. Now look at us. Years later, we're more motivated than ever to participate in government elections, speak passionately for what we believe in, and even serve our country in the battlefield. But America takes it to the next level to give help to other countries in need. U.S. aid responds to an average of 50 countries every year, providing life-saving assistance to tens of millions. Let the perseverance of America and its citizens inspire other countries, because very few are as hardworking and dedicated as we are.
In addition to the motivation, the everyday rights of American citizens plays a big part in fixing our country's problems. But you may ask yourself, how do the rights of citizens help fix our problems? To that, I would ask you, how do they not? Our rights allow us to speak passionately for what we believe in. Okay. America has blessed us with the ability to speak our minds, protest, and pursue our dreams. How can you speak up on issues without the right to voice your opinion? How can you stop cruel decisions without a protest? As citizens, we need to use these gifts to let America know when it's in the wrong, so we can change our ways and move forward as a country. However, these rights were not always guaranteed, which is a problem alone. On April 12, 1861, our country went to war against itself. Citizens of America were torn over the mistreatment of African Americans. Although almost all of these victims were born in the US, they still lacked basic human rights. Citizens of America spoke up and took action. A nationwide issue in the 1800s turned into a valuable lesson so that America could rise up. Furthermore, we have been blessed with the land of opportunity. We have such a diverse culture and all are welcome. Or at least that's what I had thought. On the news, all I ever hear about is a border crisis. What can we do to fix this? What can I do, a 14-year-old girl? Well, something everyone can do. It's attend rallies, call local politicians, or even post on social media, because we have the right. With a united government, we can work together in a civilized way to examine, define, and improve immigration laws. Let this not go down in history as a tragedy, but as a valuable lesson that will strengthen us as a country. In conclusion, America is not perfect, but who is? Through our motivation, rights, and opportunistic land, America can take on any challenge. I started this speech with a quote from President Clinton, and I'll end with one. If you live long enough, you'll make mistakes. But if you learn from them, you'll be a better person. It's how you handle adversity, not how it affects you. The main thing is never quit, never quit, never quit. Thank you.
Hola, mi nombre es Victoria Ordóñez Carveo, y yo soy una Latina Americana. For all you non-Spanish speakers out there, all I said was a recap of my name and that I am a Latin American. I lived in Mexico when I was around 4 to 6 years old, and I was too young then to understand how bad Mexico was. The houses were old and rusted, they were practically falling apart. The roads were dust roads, which were a hassle to drive in. Many immigrants migrate to America, not only to better the future for themselves, but their family as well. As a result, they impact American history for the better. Oscar Hamlin once said, "I once thought to write about the history of immigrants in America. Then I noticed, immigrants are American history." For many decades, immigrants have been seen as a negative impact to society, when they really are steering the boat for America. The United States alone receives over 1 million immigrants per year since the 1990s, all making an enormous contribution to the US economy, technology, and country as a whole. So, how do immigrants contribute to the economy? When immigrants decide to enter the labor force, they increase the productive capacity of the economy and raise the gross domestic product, also known as GDP. This phenomenon is called the immigration surplus. The immigration surplus causes an increase of product with more than enough needed, even with the population America has today. Immigrants are also able to own small businesses which supply jobs for native-born Americans. Physical Policy reported that an estimate of 4.7 million people are supplied jobs by businesses owned by immigrants, and they generate an estimate of $776 billion annually. There are many stereotypes that immigrants take our job and steal our food, but they really keep an income in our bank accounts and supply us product. Immigrants have saved our economy in a positive manner. Immigrants don't only help advance our economy, but they help advance our technology. According to Seniors Bureau, immigrants represent 33% of engineers, 27% of mathematicians, statisticians, and scientists, and 24% of physical scientists. As you can see, immigrants are a big part of technology-based jobs that help advance and fix our technology every day. Elon Musk was the co-founder of SpaceX and Tesla. However, most don't know that he is an immigrant too. He was originally born in Africa, but came to America at a very young age. He have helped advance our technology, as well as many other immigrants like him. A popular stereotype is that immigrants bring crime to America. However, this stereotype, like most, is not true. Immigrants actually commit 56 fewer crimes than native-born Americans. That includes selling drugs. Immigrants contribute to crimes a lot less than politicians state. In Arizona alone, immigrants represent 40% of our population, as well as in California, Texas, Florida, and so on. Immigrants have been contributing to America for centuries. After all, America is the melting pot for all race and ethnicity. However, we start to forget that immigrants are still contributing to American history. We need to welcome immigrants with open arms. By doing this, we get to see both of the whys. If we deny change, argue with spread. Our children will grow up corrupt and separated. Immigrants have been contributing to our economy, technology, and country as a whole. What have you done to contribute to our country? Thank you.
Americans never quit. We never surrender. We never hide from history. We make history. John McCain. Good afternoon, judges, audience members, and fellow contestants. My name is Haneen Akram. I'm from Alta Loma, and I'm here to tell you about John McCain. Former Senator McCain never quit. He never surrendered, and he definitely made history. And he did it all for us, his fellow Americans. On October 26, 1967, John McCain's Skyhawk dive bomber was shot down by a missile in Vietnam. He broke both arms and a leg and was taken in as a prisoner of war, also known as a POW. He actually wrote about his experiences. He was beaten and bruised. Whenever interrogated, he would only give his name, birth date, and serial number. However, he was told he'd be denied any medical treatment until he gave the Vietnamese military information. But they soon found out who his father, a high-ranking military officer, happened to be. They gave him minimal medical treatment and offered for him to be released early. However, he valiantly refused. He would not allow himself to leave everyone else behind. He never surrendered to the Vietnamese, despite being beaten countless times. And after a long 5.5 years, he was finally released. Let's fast forward a bit. Following one of the most tragic events in US history, 9/11, the government conducted something called enhanced interrogation. Really though, that was just another term for systematic torture. Of course, John McCain did not approve of this. After all, he was a tortured detainee himself. An organization called Human Rights First brought together a group of 30 retired general officers who were all against torture carried out by the US. This created more support for Senator McCain. In December of 2005, the McCain Anti-Torture Amendment was passed. The former senator stated, "The use of torture compromises that which distinguishes us from our enemies. Our belief that all people, even captured enemies, possess basic human rights." McCain did not quit when others didn't agree with him. Lastly, John McCain made history, gaining the title of Maverick. In the dictionary, a maverick is defined as an independent-minded person. Often, McCain would vote opposite of his party, shocking his fellow Republicans. He voted for what he personally thought was best for Americans. A well-known time he voted against his party was during the GOP plan to repeal Obamacare. Republicans had been planning to end it for about 2 months, but John McCain's vote changed everything. Party line votes wouldn't stop him. Without his thumbs down, millions and millions of Americans could have lost their health care. John McCain truly lived out his quote, "Americans never quit. We never surrender. We never hide from history. We make history." He persevered to stop torture in the US, didn't surrender to the Vietnamese during his time as a prisoner of war, and made history as a maverick. McCain was a truly honorable and patriotic senator, veteran, and American hero. Thank you.
Making a difference, voicing our opinions, contributing to society. These are goals that drive many of us, but did you know that the way to achieve all of these objectives is within the grasp of all United States citizens? My name is Leah Bucher, and I am here to talk about a responsibility all American citizens are blessed with that should not be taken for granted: voting. By voting, you are participating in democracy, enacting a civic duty, and helping to direct the path of your country. In this speech, I intend to prove that voting is a responsibility that should not be taken for granted. Thoughtful voting is essential in the process of electing our leaders, and that every vote counts. In the US, we tend to take our rights for granted, and we often forget that in other countries, people don't have a say about what goes on in their government. Desalin Victor grew up in Haiti, where government corruption and political violence is common. She immigrated to the United States, became a citizen, and in 2012, at the age of 102, she willingly stood in line for over 3 hours to cast her vote for president. Because of her determination and patriotism, she was honored at President Obama's 2013 State of the Union address. Desalin understood the privilege of voting and was a woman all of us can learn a lesson from. On voting day, many go to the polls and vote for certain candidates based on party affiliation or ads they have seen in the media, but many more don't vote at all. So how does this affect us? Well, when younger people don't vote, issues that interest them, such as student debt, aren't addressed by candidates. It is crucial to exercise your right to vote, but more importantly, to be an informed voter. To be an informed voter, you must be knowledgeable about issues and positions of candidates without being persuaded by outside factors. Though it may seem difficult, by voting in an educated manner, the results of elections will better reflect the will of the people. In the wise words of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, "Nobody will ever deprive the American people of the right to vote except the American people themselves. And the only way they could do this is by not voting." Many people don't vote because they assume their vote won't make a difference. This couldn't be further from the truth. In 1842, Indiana farmer Jamison Shoemaker cast his own self-made ballot at the last minute, after the polling place had run out of official ballots. When the race resulted in a tie, his ballot was used to decide the election of State Representative Madison Marsh. In 1843, legislators gathered to vote for Indiana senator. After multiple votes failed to produce a clear winner, Madison Marsh went on to cast the deciding vote that put Edward Hannigan into the Senate. When the Senate later gathered to vote to establish Texas statehood, Edward Hannigan was among those who voted to approve it, and the measure passed by 1 vote. Indiana farmer Jamison Shoemaker voted for Madison Marsh, who won by 1 vote. Madison Marsh voted for Edward Hannigan, who won by 1 vote. And Edward Hannigan voted to establish Texas statehood, which won by 1 vote. If 1 vote could do all of that, what do you think your vote could do? Voting is an important responsibility where it is essential to be informed about who and what you're voting for and believe that your vote can make a difference. It is our most powerful tool to show that we care for our country and to change it for the better.
As President John Quincy Adams once said, always vote for principle, though you may vote alone, and you may cherish the sweetest reflection that your vote is never lost. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Let me ask you this. What makes America such a great nation? Is it because of the endless opportunities that we are presented, or because of the 1.4 million military members willing to die for us? Yes, those make America a spectacular nation. But to me, the greatest thing is that America is known as the biggest melting pot in the world. I am Erica Maglalang, an immigrant in this melting pot. Langston Hughes once wrote a poem called I Too. In it, he describes that no matter your race or color of your skin, you have the right to feel patriotic in the country that you live in. At the end of the poem, he writes, I too am America. Now, a little throwback here. March 2007, a month that would change my life forever. The month that a family of 5 would journey to a new world in search of a better future. Imagine this. You're moving to a new country. You don't know anyone, and you aren't familiar with the language they speak. What would be running through your mind? All I knew at 2 years old is that I was separated from my family in the Philippines and that my life was about to change. What I didn't know is that I had just stepped on the soil of the land of the free and the home of the brave, where the impossible becomes possible. We are different in the way that America is the only place you see this. Different races, different religions, different skin colors, all coming together in one place. According to government statistics, 13.5% of people in America are immigrants. Take a look around this room. You will notice that there are so many beautiful nationalities around you. People talking different languages, doing different rituals. This is what makes America such a great nation. Different cultures coming together for the common goal, to make the future better. If I knew someone who wanted to immigrate to America legally, I would tell them, go ahead and take that jump. It'll be hard, but it will be worth it in the end. I would tell them that because I know that their life would change for the better if they moved here. America provides over 6 million different jobs to help their citizens. America, I will always be grateful to you for the chance you have given me and my family. Bright future for the new generation and a peaceful life for everyone to enjoy. When I was younger, I would joke that I was half Filipino and half American because I lived in America, I spoke English, and I ate cereal. Half Filipino because I was born in the Philippines, I spoke Tagalog, and also ate Filipino dishes. But now that I've grown up, I've realized that it is more than that. Being an immigrant symbolizes one's determination to make their life better, no matter the cost. It is here in America that immigrants like me get a chance to change my life for the better. And that's what makes America so great. We learn from each other to grow as a person, state, and country together. Imagine this. You're in a room full of 44 million people. Never the same color, never the same race, never the same religion, but the same dream. And that is to live a peaceful life and to face a better future. That room is America. 44 million. 44 million immigrants live here in America. Many who are willing to serve this country by being a teacher, a policeman, a firefighter, and most of all, even willing to lay their life down just to protect the American dream by serving in the armed forces. 44 million grateful immigrants are proud to call this country home. And together, we proudly say that we too are America.
I want all of you to imagine what type of difference we could make in our country if we were to work together on a common goal. This would require a change in our mindset, but that is okay. I am on a mission to encourage everybody to vote and be a part of improving our amazing country. Good afternoon, judges, guests, and fellow contestants. My name is Frank Beard. I am here to tell all of you that life is full of changes, and we cannot avoid it. Our country needs people like you, and you to rise up and be a part of the change by getting involved in the voting process. If you do not agree with our current sitting president, senators, lawmakers, city council members, mayors, governors, or any other elected official, or if you do like them and want to keep them in office, then you will get out and vote. If you do not like the current policies or practices being done by our government, then you will get out and vote. You cannot complain about problems in our nation if you are eligible to vote and did not do it. You also cannot be a part of the solutions to our problems if you do not get out and vote. In 2018, there was a 50-year high for voter turnout during the midterm election. Statistics from the United States Election Project indicate that 47% of the voting eligible population casted a ballot. It is shameful that 47% is considered high, but it is for our country. Our generation must change these tragic statistics. We cannot just sit behind our chairs playing video games or messing around with nonsense on our social media accounts. As you have heard today, voter participation in the United States is way too low. We need to encourage our families, friends, and acquaintances to vote for the sake of our nation. I encourage you to register to vote as soon as you reach the legal age, which is 18 in the United States. If you cannot physically cast your ballot, then you can fill out your absentee ballot. But the bottom line is that you must vote. The government has an impact on all of our lives in one way or another. Think about the current state of the union and ask yourself if there is anything you would like to see changed. Could your community use change? And if so, what are you going to do about it? If you care about important issues such as current wars, religious freedom, immigration, racism, abortions, marriage rights, decline of privacy, environmental issues, ending the drug war, a broken government, then you will get out and vote. Henry Rollins once told us that voting is completely important. People in America think democracy is a given. I think of it as an ecosystem. And what gets in the way of it is politicians and apathy. I leave you with the final thought. Vote, vote, vote. Educate yourself on the different candidates and topics. Don't waste your vote by doing nothing. Go to the polling station or fill out your absentee ballot. Know what you are voting for, who you are voting for, why you are voting, and do the right thing and cast your ballot. Be an American patriot and vote.